Okay, well, welcome from Team Science Field and Delivered. We're going to be presenting some information on medical, the time that the medical orders were written to the time that they're delivered up to level 4 to the patient. So you'll see our team picture. That's all the folks in Science Field Delivered. I'm actually standing about 3 steps above Frank. So I said my job was to look at the low shelves and his was to look at the high shelves. We're going to introduce ourselves. I'm Chuck McCann, with the exception of our flipper, who is Pat. So give everybody a wave, Pat. So if we move to the report. So our culmination report, workshop report, project one, decrease the lead time from surgical patients from medication order written to medication given to client. We looked at a fair amount of data, and that was a bit of a challenge. But in the data, we were able to pull out some baseline information, and I've circled the stuff that we really focused on. So we focused on the pharmacy tech delivery and the ward clerk movement, particularly in order to get the orders down to pharmacy. We looked at the part travel. We looked at the lead time for the medication orders. So if you'll note, that was 239 and our target was 119. And Frank's going to talk about that later. A couple of the other things that we looked at were some of the order time for processing, and we looked at the cycle time for when medication is delivered from the time it gets to the ward to the time it gets to the patient. So you'll see that our value stream is fairly cluttered, the pre-Kaiser value stream. And we worked, as a group, we worked pretty hard to deal with some of that stuff. If you take a look at the standard work combination sheet, you're going to see that we focused on there's three main areas that actually, it shows up as 2 on the later one. We were able to figure and eliminate and reduce some of the pieces at the beginning and at the end. So we looked a lot around from the order pulled from the chart to the time it gets to the pharmacist to process, and then we looked again at that piece at the back end where it gets up to the patient. Our tack time, we had 24 minutes for a med pass, and I want you to have a look at some of the pre and post pieces on the waste walk. So as you can see, our waste walk, we identified a large number of pieces. But our post walk, we have X'd over or gotten rid of the majority of it. So. And lastly, this chart kind of indicates why we chose the thing. And I realize you can't really see the numbers, they're not showing through. But the piece, big orange piece there, that's the medication delivery piece, and that's what we focused on getting nailed down.
Hi, my name is Quentin Helker. I'm the nursing unit manager on surgery, and I was part of the 5S team. So we focused our efforts in the pharmacy, and specifically, we were looking at the communication boards as well as the medication delivery cupboard. So these are just some of our pre-5S scores. 1.2, and then I'm not sure if the next one is there. It was 1.8, I believe. 1.5. So anyway, our goal in the pharmacy was to get on the communication boards as much of the right information in the right place and make sure that it was up to date. We wanted to develop standard work around that as who was going to be responsible for these boards. We also wanted to make sure that the locations were proper so that people didn't have to search around looking for things and stuff that was pertinent to their specific job or duties. We also 5S and labeled the medication delivery cover. So our baseline data, we started off with, there was a number of items on the boards, a total of about 117. Wall space used was about 749 square feet. I already mentioned the pre-5S scores. So the next, this is our tech information board, and we developed a pharmacy, it's called tech information board. It's specifically pharmacy technician information board. And their information was kind of scattered throughout the department, so what we wanted to do was have a designated area for the technicians so that they could go to one specific area. And they include things like their tech talks, schedules, duty rosters, would all be found all in one place. We also developed some standard work around that as to who would be responsible to keep it up. The communication board, pre and post, again, there was a lot of information that was kind of scattered and was not really any sense or rhyme or reason. So what we did was condensed, or we took a lot of stuff off, and then we created just and we specifically put it out so we wanted to have specific information on that communication board that was pertinent. And we would post the pharmacy therapeutic minutes there, staff meeting minutes, and then anything else that the director felt would be upcoming that she wanted to display. And we also developed some standard work around that. The next one is the back of the door communication, and there was always lots of information on there. And really, again, so what we did was we just created a space, and was specifically for data collection information, so that when staff are going in and out, then that's where they make do their check marks or whatever, for data, specific data that they might be collecting. The next one was a social board, and everybody likes to display either announcements or photos or upcoming activities or whatever, so we put everything together, and then we put that stuff near the coffee area where people are filling their coffee mugs, and so it's a good area for them. The next one was the vis wall. So the visibility wall is kind of in the back of the pharmacy, and again, it was quite a lot of things going on there. And to top it off, there was this picture doesn't show it, but there was carts, medication carts that are normally parked, and they would kind of block half of or at least the bottom portion of the board. So we went to the next one. Do we have a post? And so we streamlined it quite a bit and made it a little more organized. And we blocked off this lower section right here so that when the carts do happen to get parked there, they're not going to be obstructing any view. So, what else? The medication delivery cupboard. We 5S that, and we labeled everything. We kept the processes pretty much the same because the staff made it clear that they didn't want the process disrupted, that the consensus was that it was working fine the way it was. So the process stayed the same, but we did clean it up and labels and made sure that everybody knew where everything was. The ward stock delivery shelf, which was right side by side, we just took that stuff and we moved it into another area that was closer to where the technicians are actually doing the work. So basically at the very end, then our post 5S scores for our bulletin board went up to 3.0, or we did develop standard work as well. And then there was about 5 pieces of standard work that we developed. And then our post 5S evaluation, the bulletin boards went to 3.0, and then our med delivery cabinet was 2.8. We reduced the wall space from 749 down to 548 square feet. We reduced items on the boards from 117 items down to 40, and we developed 5 pieces of standard.
Hey, I'm Riley Boyko. I'm a pharmacy technician in pharmacy. Some ways we were able to improve our work value time was through our idea sheets, such as this one, getting a smaller tabletop scanner for the ward clerk to send all their new orders, a second monitor for the pharmacist entering orders to scan orders. Here's another idea sheet, giving the ward scheduled times to access and training checklists have been put in place for all these changes. So the tabletop scanner changed the wait time of the order being processed by the ward clerk and picked up by pharmacy. These went from potential of 90 minutes to almost 0 minutes, as they're being sent to pharmacy right away, not waiting to pick up for the next scheduled run. So the pharmacist entering orders now has continuous orders available to them, which is organized and sorted into folders and staff folders, which they can view on their second monitor and continue to enter orders as per usual. We did see a 12-minute process time improvement on pharmacy's end, but also see potential of other improvements as other wards roll out the same scanned order process. The ward clerks have been given access to printing the MedRec discharge forms between 7 and 8:30, which helped with some interruptions with phone calls and waiting times for these forms and improved workflow on both ends. The tabletop scanner has also helped in this process by eliminating 638 steps made to and from the printer retrieving these forms. As you can see on the screen, the post, there's lots of movement going on. The printer is now beside them, so there's not much movement going back and forth.
My name is Lisa Grimes. I'm an LPN on level 4. One of the issues that we had found was that the med carts, or the interim meds, when they're ordered, they're unaware that they're being dropped off at the med carts. So carts get crowded and they're hard to see the brown paper bags. Other staff members will sometimes put the bags away and not inform the other staff that the bags have been put away, so they're still waiting, looking for the bags. Meanwhile, it's already been put in there. So what we did is we have created a central drop box, and it is located in the middle of the counter at the nurse station. It's got 4 individual departments that are labeled cart 1, 2, 3, 4, and they all have flags that also correspond. So when the pharmacy tech comes up, they put the brown paper bag in the corresponding compartment, and then they raise the flag so that the nurse, and it's central so that it can be seen anywhere in the nurse's station, so that girls don't have to continuously going back and forth looking for their brown paper bags. They just look there, the flag's up, they know that there's something there. So they go look, they take out their patient's med, only their patient, and then the last medication that is taken out by the nurse, once it's empty, then they will put the flag down so that they're aware that there's no more meds there. Once they take the medication out, they either go give it to the patient if it's due, or else they'll put it in the drawer for when the next time is due. And that was actually, when they first started, it was a 35 minutes. The bags were staying on the carts for 35 minutes. We have now decreased time down to 20 minutes, and hopefully it'll keep decreasing as the staff becomes more accustomed to where it is situated and what they're to do. Another issue was with the interim meds. Oh, and there's a standard work record that was made for the box. Yeah, another issue was that the interim medications, when they're being marked on the MARG, the ward clerks will take them, and then the next staff isn't marking the X's in the appropriate medication times. So if it's a TID med, they'll mark it for their shift, but they won't necessarily mark it for the night shift. So medications are being missed for that reason, because the girls look for the X's and they're not there, so they don't catch it until they're checking their orders later that night. So we created a standard work for that, so that everybody will be checking the MARs and the doctor's orders and doing it all the same. So hopefully that will no longer happen. And then the other issue that we had was communication. Staff had quit reading the communication binder, and so they were unaware of changes that were being made, and it was just going through word of mouth, one staff member telling the next staff member, and that doesn't always work because stories change, so we don't always get the proper information. So we had asked them where they would prefer to have a communication board, where they would read one. They all said bathroom, so we put up a corkboard in the staff bathroom, so that there's material there, they have good reading material. And then we also put another whiteboard in behind the nurse's station for them too.
My name is Monique Zwak, and I'm a pharmacist here at the hospital. One of the other pieces that we identified was that the administration times of medicines need to be looked at and made sure that they were actually at the best time to facilitate flow. So this picture is a percent load chart that represented the current state prior to the Kaizen. What the bars represent is the number of medications that are given at the various times of day. So this was back on May 4th. There was a huge medication administration load at this time. And you'll see that at 0800 in the morning, there was 213 medications administered at that time. The rest of the day, not quite as much. So big medication admin workload first thing in the morning. So was this really necessary? Could we make it better? We created a standard work that looked at changing the administration times. The first thing we did is took away the 0800 admin time for once daily medications, and we switched it to 0900. What that did was change our workload throughout the day a little bit. We ended up with 32 meds at 0800 and 56 at 09, so definitely had leveled things out. But we got feedback from nursing that to them, there wasn't a big difference between 8 and 9. When they saw an X at 8 and an X at 9, they gave them at the same time anyway. So we were kind of teasing ourselves thinking that that had made much difference. So we went on and made yet another change in where we took all the 0800 admin times away, moved everything to 9, and that made also some changes later in the day. So a twice a day med went from 08 and 20 to 9 and 21. The 2100 time matched up with our bedtime dosing time, so that made sense. We also took the once daily IV meds and moved them to noon. So a little bit more load leveling. Our data showed at that time now, we're down to only 2 meds at 8, and to be honest, I think those were things that somehow I missed changing. At 9, we had 76 meds. And again, everything kind of low level throughout the day. The feedback that we really appreciated after this change was that nursing felt that the workflow now matched what they wanted to do. They came in, they got report, they did patient assessment. When that was done, they then went and gave their medications. How it helped us is that in the morning we have one pharmacist that comes in at 7, and they've got an hour and a half to get the medications upstairs, but the nurses are looking for their meds at 8, and we don't even leave on a run till 8:45, so the med's already late before we even get it. So this kind of mimicked what we're doing a little better. The other piece that we worked to improve was our non-urgent communication piece. So we had our first idea sheet was regarding utilizing an answering machine better. We do have an answering machine, but it still rings, and if we're there, we answer it. We implemented another line that goes directly to a voicemail, and this will be used for non-urgent communication. So things like refill requests, discharges, transfers, things that we don't need to know right now, but we will certainly want to know in the next hour or so. We're hoping that that reduces the interruptions that one pharmacist is having to deal with as they're trying to get the orders entered. We had a second idea sheet regarding some sort of a paper tool that could be used for communication. I find that during the night, the nurses leave us all sorts of little slips of paper that they think of things they want to let us know in the morning. This sheet could be used to tally a series of requests, and then that sheet faxed or scanned to pharmacy, and we can deal with it in a timely manner as well. So that's a sample of the tool there. For both of these things, we made standard work that applied to usage of them, and we also have a multiple skills training checklist that we've started so that we can educate both pharmacy staff and ward staff to how to use them.
Hello, my name is Tina Pohl, and I'm still the happy volunteer from the hospital's volunteer department. My part in the signed, sealed, and delivered RPIW 37 was that of a patient rep. I assisted with some timing on the surgery floor, but mainly visited patients talking about their medication and the change from the 8 o'clock to the 9 o'clock delivery. When I entered the patient's room, I made sure they knew that I was a volunteer and not from the administration office. Making the patient feel at ease was utmost. Making the patient feel that they were not just a number on the door, but rather a real person that qualifies for the patient first distinction was very important to me. I asked, often in front of family and friends, if their medication was received in a timely manner. If there was any change in prescription, did they know? And why? Did they feel free to ask questions regarding side effects? If they requested pain relief medication, were they quickly attended to? Patients' ages ranged from the 20s to the advanced senior. The answers were all affirmative, without hesitation and often without with genuine relief. Additional comments on the wonderful care of the nursing staff of level 4 were added. Their kindness and compassion when administering medication meant a lot to these patients and their families. Perhaps with a change from 8 to 9 a.m. delivery of meds, nurses will be less rushed and have a little more time with their patient. Even a 30-second contact is appreciated. I cannot stress enough the praise the patients had for their nurses. Not one derogatory comment, and if there were one, I would tell you. In my heart, I felt happy. The experience of RPIW 37 was an added bonus. Level 4, team signed, sealed, and delivered. That's the doctor signs it. You guys in the pharmacy seal it, and the nurses deliver it. We wish you much success. Thank you.
Okay, well, Ally says we're out of time. I'll go through really quick. Just so you know, like, we had a great time and we learned lots in this RPIW. We tried to really drill down on the weight that the old paper trail was sitting on the desk for the tech to pick up. It took about 5 minutes. And then also the brown paper bag, as it was sitting on a very crowded cart, averaged about 40 minutes or so, sometimes longer. And so if you look, these double lines represent the weights, and our old ones were quite a bit longer. So that real-time scan down at the pharmacy, virtually by the time our timer got down to the elevator, the pharmacist was already pulling the order, so it virtually eliminated that. So it's really nice to work on an RPIW where you can have that much impact. Our newspaper, we do have some items. We can't fix everything in 3 days, although we did do a lot of good work. This team worked. I can't say enough about this team. We had them here at 6:45, and I think we sent them home at about 20 to 5. Nobody complained. Everybody kept up. So some of these items, again, we still have some work to do up on level 4 in the pharmacy. So if you could just flip to our new post Kaizen, we eliminated lots of those starbursts. So we had a lot of fun doing it. I'll draw your attention. Our lead time when we started was 2 hours 33 minutes, or 39 minutes. We are down to 1 hour and 15 minutes, and we think there is some more gains to get. You can see our value add, non-value add percentages. I hope you can. If you can't, it's 57% still non-value add, and 43 for value add. So, and our new Targets progress sheet. We're proud of all the work we did. We saved a lot of space and lots of papers, and we're most proud of the tech and processing from the pickup times for the papers, virtually down 81%. We virtually eliminated that part traveling around the hospital, which is the order, to 100%. It's not there anymore. Our lead time 2:39, now it's 1.5 hours. And a couple other things that this team did really well at is the setup times down in pharmacy. We started at 37 setup time, we're down to 25, so 68%. And the cycle time when the med's sitting there now, it was sitting there for 35 minutes, it's now 20 minutes. That box has really helped, and I'd like to say we did not spend any money on that box, so we're proud of our team there. We used all the recycled stuff, although we did print labels, but they were black and white. To summarize, I can't say enough how dedicated the pharmacy staff and the level 4 staff are and how passionate and patient focused they are. We presented the issues, they came at us and they came at us, they had so many good ideas, and I found out, and Chuck and I both found out how much of a strong focus there is. Probably not unlike, but we spent a lot of time in those two departments, not unlike any other departments, but really came across. So very proud to be associated with those folks that work in the department. And Donna, I might get choked up as well, but I'll hold it together. But I can't say enough. And I do know that I could never be that 7 a.m. pharmacist. We watched that pharmacist process anywhere from 127 orders to a slow day, which is 48, in 60 minutes by themselves. So, unbelievable. We got lots of thank yous. We want to thank IT and maintenance, and we want to thank Heidi. We pulled her out. She was a 3S member, ad-lib, tech and pharmacy. We want to thank Lori and all her staff again, nursing and all the staff up on level 4 and Clinton. Can't say enough about Allie. Thank you very much for keeping the whole team rolling and patient focused, and you're a lean machine. And I want to also thank Carol for supporting the whole team, because we wouldn't have got any of that IT stuff in there without your support. So thank you guys very much.